The G-Men! The New York Giants are today. I just want to get right into it.
Oh, oh, all right,
Just
all right.
skip it. No intro needed, and I'm already screwing up because I got my notifications going off. I'm so sorry. We're so unprofessional here. Would you like to lead us? I feel like I've led a decent amount recently. Please lead us into the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants won the second most games in the NFC East, so there's something there. I mean, four of their six wins were against teams in the NFC East, and another one was against the Bengals, and then one of them was against the Seahawks with Colt McCoy in at quarterback. So very very fun team. I mean, my roommate at college, he was a big Giants fan, so I mean, I'd know what they were doing because I'd be hearing him screaming while watching Bills games, and I'm just giddy. But he was besides himself most of the time. But going through and watching their games, Daniel Jones is the least impressive QB I've watched so far. Going through these teams, he is so boring to watch. It just he the biggest thing for him coming out of the draft was he is the most mechanically sound quarterback. And I guess that's true, but the dude cannot maneuver a pocket to save his life. He just has no vision on anything that is like in front of him. He's got like Madden brain. He's just staring 50 yards down the field. And it seems like he gets sacked really easy because he isn't trying to maneuver the pocket or get away from pressure. So there's my notes on Daniel Jones. Their running back, after Saquon got hurt, that whole room was just a revolving door. They had so many guys. Like the four games I watched, San Fran, the first Washington game, Cincinnati, and Baltimore, they had like a different running back every single time. And it was insane just to see the named guys in Devontae Freeman and Deion Lewis, and then other guys like Wayne Gallman back there, who was actually their backup running back. I think he dealt with injuries as well during the season, but it is just insane to see the amount of bodies that they were just throwing at the wall. And hopefully they sure up that backup running back spot because you kind of need that with a lead back like Saquon, just someone that is serviceable if anything like that
You need a
happens.
backup running back no matter who you are. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the Jaguars needed one, and everybody's like, "Why'd you take a running back?" And now he's messing with everybody, saying that he's a receiver, and it's like, oh great, now everybody's confused.
Uh, with me keeping it going, Evan Ingram did not deserve his Pro Bowl nod at all. His season was atrocious. I watched like the Giants have primetime games because they play the Cowboys and also they're in the NFC East, so each of those teams are guaranteed like three primetime games every season. Uh, and Evan Ingram just drops wide open balls, and it is insane for him to be considered by many one of like the top tier tight ends in the NFL when top tier tight ends don't drop wide open balls, and that's what he does. He's very athletic. I won't deny him that, but geez, dude, if you cannot catch the ball, I doesn't matter how much athleticism you have. And one of the last things I had was just have Jabril Peppers return kicks as well. Like you have him returning punts already, just have him return kicks. It doesn't matter. Like the offense is getting the ball both those times. It's not like you're worried about Jabril Peppers being tired when the offense gets the ball on kickoff returns. So I don't know why they don't have him doing both. He is a playmaker, and like we've agreed before in the past episodes, if you have a playmaker on your team for special teams, let him return the ball. It doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense to have him only do one or none.
I know.
Get the ball in his hands.
We're gonna have to stop saying it because I mean it's literally every single team on the planet. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's tough. I don't actually have a crazy amount of notes for these guys today. I liked the first game, watched the opening game of the season against the Steelers. I like that the Steelers muffed a punt on their first opportunity to take their first possession. And then the Giants get the ball at the 3 yard line and immediately settle for three. That was great. Can't wait to see Saquon back on the field for obvious reasons. I mean, he's one of the most exciting players in football, I would say. I mean, once he gets the ball in like any sort of open field at all, it doesn't seem like many people can tackle him one on one. At least Daniel Jones is always fun to watch, whether it's good or bad. I think he's fun to watch. I think it's very amusing watching him. Uh, they just made too many mistakes in the Pittsburgh game. Darius Slayton looked very good though early, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if he just like declined throughout the season, but it felt like the later my games got in the season, the more he was just like phased out for some reason, even though he seems to be fairly successful. I saw him drop one pass, but not a ton like negative besides him just getting phased out really. I probably should be kinder to this team since like injuries kind of hurt them, but eh. They really ran the ball pretty well against Cleveland and worked the play action game off of that well too. If they did that with Jones in the game, that would help a lot. By the end of the game, the offense was still lacking though, because I mean, just like O-line, quarterback, backup running back, because Colt McCoy backup running back and the O-line just were not getting it done, even though they were kind of scheming up well against Cleveland. Leonard Williams is still a heck of a force up front, and they are a better defense than I give them credit for as a team. Their team defense is pretty solid, but there's still components of it that I don't like very much. But yeah, and then the all-white Giants uniforms with the Giants written on the side of the helmet look so clean. I would want to wear those like every week of the season. Like some things are like alternates for teams, and I think it's fun to have alternates, but then it's like those uniforms look so good, they should just be the main. Then Daniel Jones in the 2-minute drill. Just cue the circus music against the Buccaneers. Oh my gosh, that was tremendous to get to watch. The fact that it almost worked made it even better. But then he had his running back out of the backfield actually run his, like, he was open, and he just threw it at his back shoulder instead of like in front of him, and if he led him at all, they would have got the 2-point conversion and that game would have went to overtime. And then the only crew like as a whole that I'll really say I like on the defensive side of the ball is I basically like the entire secondary, and their O-line just not terribly impressed with at all. And screw the Eagles week 17.
Yeah, that just I'm glad that was the primetime game, because watching that was just mwah.
Yeah, put the third stringer in. It's all good. Everybody will be happy. I'm getting
Yeah,
fired anyways. All right, stats. You first again.
For stats, there was only one thing that I found impressive, because this team just did nothing really popped off the stat sheet for me with this team, but Graham Gano, really consistent and great kicker for them. Only missed one field goal, and it was from 50 plus. I mean, can't get much better from a kicker there. And like you said, if you're a kicker, you probably want to be playing on a bad team because you got no pressure kicks.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out again. So for me, I got to say, Daniel Jones started 14 games. His touchdown to interception ratio was 11-10. That's disgusting. It's not terrible interception numbers, but it's like, geez, throw like any more touchdown passes. I'm not impressed with that at all. A lot of names got carries in this backfield without Saquon, but Gallman seemed to be the clear number 2. But guess what? He's gone, so that doesn't matter. Slayton had 751 yards, but only caught 52.1% of the passes thrown to him. So, I mean, you could kind of say that was like because he was running deeper routes than guys like Sterling Shepard, but Shepard caught 73.3% of his passes, and even though he was running relatively shorter routes, he had kind of the same amount of targets, and maybe like a 10 percentage point decrease would be kind of what I would be looking for, but that's a heavy drop. That's more than 20% difference between Slayton and Shepard, even though Slayton is the one I said before I liked. Ingram also had 63 catches for 654 yards, but I mean, I didn't see any plays from him that impressed me. He just kind of was standing in the flat, caught the ball, then ran up the field. From everything I saw. I said the same thing as you. Let Jabril Peppers return kicks and punts. I mean, he's too exciting not to. Graham Gano had a great year. Blake Martinez had 151 tackles, so he went to work doing that. Just weird. I don't love that, but I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like they have anybody besides him at the linebacker position, like off ball. Leonard Williams had 14 TFLs and 11.5 sacks. James Bradbury, 18 passes defended at 3 interceptions. I also like Jabril Peppers on defense, but I love Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan is one of the most underrated players in the league, and he led the team with 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah, their secondary impressed me with what I saw. James Bradbury and Logan Ryan had great years. Yeah,
Yeah.
free agency now.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. For their gains, the biggest one of the offseason, maybe the entire offseason, would probably be Kenny Galladay. He was premier receiver, and he's probably or definitely going to get his recognition now going to the media circus that is New York. So good for him. He got paid, and he's going to get a lot more eyes on him, which is great for him. They addressed their backup running back situation by bringing in Corey Clement and Devontae Booker. Uh, I don't have a problem with them taking the let's just get all we can and throw it at the wall and see what sticks kind of approach in the off season. During the season, that doesn't work too much when you're like, oh, let's just bring in any free agent and see if it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, but it's really hard to make that work during the season. But OTAs and camp, I have no problem with that. They get Ryan Anderson away from the football team. They stack their D line even more with Danny Shelton filling in Delvin Tomlinson's role, and they bring in a speed guy in John Ross.
Okay. Names you didn't mention that I'll add. Reggie Ragland kind of could be that backup to Blake Martinez that they kind of want because, like I said, that linebacking core, just a bunch of no-names besides him. Mike Glennon's going to be the backup QB. That's kind of important because backup starter got hurt last year. And these three names I can't remember if you mentioned. Kyle Rudolph, Adoree Jackson, Kelvin Benjamin. Adoree Jackson fills in as like the number 2 corner, which is good. Kyle Rudolph gives them a second tight end, so if they wanted to run more 2 tight end sets, they could. And Kelvin Benjamin, whatever he's going to do, he's on the team, and let's mention him.
Yeah, yeah. For their losses, not that many guys that I have mentioned here. Delvin Tomlinson and Kevin Zeitler, they're 2 big guys in the trenches, or defensive and offensive respectively, that they're losing. I think those are their 2 biggest losses. Cam Fleming, also an offensive tackle that went to Denver, so their O-line got way weaker, and they did not really do much to address it. So it's interesting. Golden Tate is also not signed yet, along with Dion Lewis, and those are the 2 guys that haven't been signed yet by any team, that are still just hanging around.
Yeah, I also had Alfred Morris and Jabal Sheard there. And then they lost Wayne Gallman, too. I don't know if you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. But, I mean, he was pretty important to their team by the end of last year, so that's a pretty big one. I don't, losing linemen, I mean, the line didn't look good last year, and that's not exciting. That's, I think, what's highlighted here by the guys they lost. So, draft time.
Yeah, their draft is pretty interesting from their free agent gains and losses, and just looking at the team as a whole. Kadarius Toney, I mean, if the Giants were a good team, I would love that pick because you are just stacking up on weapons at that point. But you're stacking up on weapons, and your team is bad. So, I still love Kadarius Toney. He was my number 2 receiver coming into the draft. He is so good. Just all around, everything is great. I don't know what he is going to do on this team, though. It's such a weird pick for them to have that, especially with defensive linemen that were still on the board, offensive linemen that were still on the board, secondary players, linebackers that were still on the board, and they go with a wide receiver. So just seemed like they're like, I don't know. It seems like they are stacking up on a position that they don't need to stack up on.
It's on the border for me here. For Kadarius Toney, he's like, I don't know, because based off what I saw from like the receiving statistics, you add Galladay, so he's the 3rd guy, but I don't really know. I feel like they're probably questioning Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton a little bit, and I don't know which one it is by making this pick, but I have a feeling that one of them is going to get moved down to the 4th spot in the depth chart, and that Kadarius Toney will be in the top 3. Which, what I say here is just that they're just trying to make it so that Daniel Jones has no excuses if he plays poorly.
Yeah, I agree with that too, but
But
I
the
just
offensive line is weak, so it doesn't really make much sense.
it seems like too much of a luxury for me. Like I do agree. Give Daniel Jones zero excuses for the organization and the fans, so you can just move on from him after the season if he doesn't pan out. But it's a weird pick for me. It was a weird pick at the time, and I still think it's weird looking back at it.
Yeah. It's
Their
just
second
I
round,
like the player
uh,
so much it's hard to
yeah,
really make
yeah,
me mad.
that. Mhm. Their second round pick was Azeez Ojulari. I am not high on him at all. He's a Chase Young clone, and that's what most of the pass rushers coming out of this draft were, just Chase Young clones. He was my number 9 overall. Uh, it's funny too because looking at how weak their linebacker position is, they drafted 2 linebackers in this draft when I looked at the list, but they're just
Edge
like
guys.
pass rushers,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just they didn't really address uh, some of their major positions of need, though they kind of did in the third round with Aaron Robinson. Is an interesting pick of theirs for me because with Logan Ryan and James Bradbury in their secondary, I do like the traits that he brings to the table. Uh, for them to develop him into a number 2 corner eventually when either Logan Ryan or James Bradbury go, because they're only going to get older. So I do like that as a developmental pick there, but with their draft, it seems like they just picked a bunch of developmental guys or guys that of not positions of need when they were one of the worst teams in the NFL. Granted, they were competing for a playoff spot, but I don't know how much that weighs on the front office of, yeah, we competed for a playoff spot in the worst division in football in a long time.
Yeah.
It's
Aaron Robinson's interesting to me because like I want to say that they need a nickel corner, so I'm kind of okay with it. But at the same time, I'm like so I'm saying that Logan Ryan is a safety here, and it's almost like the last 2 years the teams he's been on have both thought of him as a corner somehow, and he's kind of playing the nickel role for them. So, I mean, he's really solid. So then if he's playing nickel, I don't think you need Aaron Robinson unless you actually want to say Logan Ryan's one of the 2 safeties on the field now. I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah. And that developmental mindset goes in with their fourth round pick, Ellerson Smith. Small school guy, very long and lanky, and produces big numbers in the sack category. But geez, why are you taking another pass rusher, especially a guy like Ellerson Smith that is going to be a huge developmental project? It seems their draft is so confusing to me. It just seems like a team like this would want to make the most out of all their picks and probably just like alternate O line, D line, O line, D line, and they're taking a bunch of guys that are just like 2 year projects.
Yeah, he's. I agree with you. I mean, he's versatile, but the low level competition is kind of tough. And I mean, just based on looking at him to play in the NFL, he looks like he's gonna need to put like some weight on to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Probably their most ready guy, and this is no surprise because running backs usually are the most ready out of any position that you draft in the draft. Uh, Gary Brightwell, he seems like a solid number 2 running back for them. He runs with a full head of steam every single time he touches the ball, and he's a pretty good receiver too. Not really much negative to say about him. He's probably one of their better picks just for where they took him and where like it was a need.
Yeah, I like his running style, like as a one cut back, and he's pretty fast, so I like it.
Mm-hmm. And then ending their draft with Rodarius Williams. He's Greedy Williams' brother. He was my number 17 ranked corner. Uh, he didn't really impress me a lot with the tape that I saw on him, but there is something to say with every year that you're in college, you improve statistically. And if you could just keep your that work ethic and that ability to want to get better in the NFL with better coaches and better facilities, the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just really like his play style. Like nothing insane like that he actually did. I just like his play style a lot, and I think he would be fine if he actually needed to step in at cornerback for them. But grabbing a corner here. That's not what we
Mm-hmm.
needed. But don't worry,
Yeah.
since they didn't take the late round necessary receiver. They decided, hey, we know we need to take a receiver, so we'll take one early.
Yeah. Yeah. Because every team has to.
Yeah. All right, give me your record prediction. I can't remember the last time you gave the record prediction first. Their over under is 7.
7? Oh, okay. Now, I can't say that because you've said this before, off camera, and maybe even during some other episodes that you don't think the Giants are going to be that great, and I haven't voiced my disagreement with you. But then going through this and looking at their team, I agree with you. So just keep that in mind for the record prediction.
I won.
Week 1, home against Denver. I think that's an L. At the football team, that's an L. Against Atlanta, that's an L. At New Orleans, that's an L. At Dallas, that's an L. Rams, that's an L. Panthers, that's an L. Chiefs, that's an L. Vegas, they get their first W of the season against Vegas.
Yeah. Woo.
Then they head into their bye week. They come out of their bye week. They have to play Tampa. That's an L. They go against Philly at home. That's a dub. Play against Miami at Miami. That's an L. At the Chargers, that's an L. Home against Dallas, that's an L. At Philly, that's an L. At Chicago, that's an L. Home against the football team, that's an L. They finish 2-15.
Ooh,
their
boy.
schedule.
Ooh,
their
boy. Ooh,
their
boy.
schedule. Their schedule is really rough, man. They have such a hard schedule,
dude. I think I don't even think that's necessarily the case. I just think you're realizing how bad this team is. Like, this is not the worst schedule we've seen so far.
No, it isn't. But
look at how many like mediocre, if not less than like teams. How many of these teams can we actually like say are going to be good teams next season? Like, guarantee it. The Chiefs, the Bucks, and that's
Rams,
it. The Chiefs,
the
and
Chargers.
Bucks. Okay.
You can say that the Chiefs or that the Rams and Chargers are going to be good teams.
Guaranteed, like really good teams. You got some moving pieces. We've seen the Chargers drop a few too many games in recent years. We're hoping the new coach fixes that. And as for the Rams, even though we feel pretty confident, it's not a guarantee. I do think we are both pretty confident about it, but it's not a guarantee with how many moving pieces they have.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I mean you're not far off of me. Okay, Denver, I'm actually saying is a toss-up game. Because if Aaron Rodgers ends up if they get a quarterback before the season, that's a loss, but it's a toss-up for now, okay? At Washington, like Washington, L. At Atlanta, L. New Orleans, L. Dallas, L. Los Angeles Rams, L. Carolina, toss-up. At Kansas City, L. Las Vegas, toss-up. Tampa Bay, loss. Philadelphia, W. Miami, loss. Chargers, loss. Cowboys again, loss. Eagles, toss-up this time. Not just the win, toss-up this time. L at Chicago, and L for Washington again. And then here, I think this is like the longest like out piece that I've had on a team. 3-14 is what that comes out to be if you kind of tracked it. I'd almost say hammer the under. Like, I don't feel confident in this team getting 7 wins. I don't like Daniel Jones much at all. There's talent around him, but skill at the skill positions. But the O-line got weaker this offseason, and I wouldn't have called it their strength before the offseason, so that's just worse. That kills Daniel Jones. And if we see more injuries on this team, it will become really hard to watch Mike Glennon step in at quarterback, because I think he's even a significant downgrade from Colt McCoy. I've never enjoyed watching Mike Glennon play quarterback. Also, I think the only thing for the entire D-line and linebacking corps that really excites me is Martinez, which is only a kind of, and then Williams, who is actually good. And some of the other guys have some ability to like stop the run on the interior defensive line, but it's nothing that great. I think there's too much lacking at those position groups I mentioned for this team to be very much of anything impressive next season. And yeah, pretty heavy under.
Yeah. And with Mike, the thing you said about injuries and Mike Glennon coming in, I had this in my draft notes. I didn't get the chance to say it. I wish they would have gone in the late rounds, gotten a quarterback. Just because if you find out week 7 or 8 that you don't want to have Daniel Jones as your guy anymore, and I mean, with how I am predicting their schedule, they will have like 8 or 9 straight losses at that point. Why not have like Sam Ellinger or Ian Book or some guy in the late rounds that you knew would be there? Just pick him up. Yeah, and just see what you can do. Maybe you can earn this job.
Though. So they didn't even have to draft him. They could have picked him up.
Exactly. Just any interesting quarterback in this draft besides Mike Glennon, because with Mike Glennon, you know that that's not your quarterback of the future, and it would have just been nice to see a young guy, like if Daniel Jones isn't good, just here, prove to us why you should be our franchise quarterback now. And if you can't prove that to us in these last games of the season, we have a terrible team, but show some flashes. If you can't, we're going to be in great position to draft top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. They're putting a lot of stock in basically just wide receivers and Saquon returning. Even the tight ends with Ingram and Rudolph. But, geez, all on the skill positions and no O-line, no quarterback, and basically only, like, really willing to say that the secondary is solid on defense. I don't feel good about this team. But whenever it's a question mark at QB, there's going to be one guy that's going to amaze us every year at the quarterback position that we didn't expect to take off. So maybe it'll be Daniel Jones, but I don't feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, playmakers are great. You just need someone to get the ball in their hand, though.
You all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut it here.